Hey guys, I'm Rohit,
And I'm Neel.
and if you haven't been to our channel before, we've linked a couple of videos above on what consulting is and what the casing process is. We're two people who've worked at or are going to start working at Bain, and in this video particularly, we're going to go over what is the case process like and how to be successful at it. And so we've kind of split this up into four main sections. First one is going to be what exactly is a case interview. The second one is going to be how important is the case interview in the consulting process. The third one is why do firms even go through this casing process? What's the reason or rationale behind them doing this? And finally, the fourth one is how do you get good at casing? And so Neel could probably walk us through the first three ones.
So again, I'm Neel. I'm working at Bain right now. He'll be interning there this coming summer. First, we'll tackle the question, what is a case interview? Starting broadly, case interviews are big business problems that consulting firms actually face that are then condensed down into a 25 to 30 minute bite-sized chunk that then you will run through whenever you interview. It'll start out by the interviewer asking you a broad, open-ended business question, such as, your client is Coffee Co., and they have been experiencing declining profits in the last 5 years. What would you do to help them? And so from that basis of a really broad question, you then have to go through a methodical and logical process of how to dig deeper into that company's situation and find the problem, and then also recommend potential ways to fix that problem, both through qualitative and quantitative measures. So during a case interview, both your creativity, your business acumen, but then also your mathematical skills and the way that you think the problems will be tested. They're usually given by managers or partners at these firms, depending on if you're in the first or in the final round or the second round of the interviews. So that kind of concludes the broad basis of what a case interview is. Now let's talk about how important they are. They're super important. And what I mean by that is they can really make or break your ability to land an internship or a full-time position at any of these firms. I've even heard some people say that it's up to 70 to 80%, if not higher, of how likely you are to get a position is if you're good at casing or not. So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the way that if your GPA isn't that great or if maybe your resume isn't that strong, but you do find your way into an interview, that's the way that you land the position, is by being just solid at casing and then knocking it out of the park. Next, what are firms testing in a case interview? We kind of alluded to it already a little bit when I talked about the qualitative and quantitative aspects of a case. They're trying to see if you're a structured thinker, if it's something that not only the interviewer, but in an actual situation, a client or your supervisor or your manager could follow along and repeat if you were to talk to them about it. Can you handle a lot of data? In case interviews, you're often balancing not only talking to the interviewer, but also solving the problem, doing math, being creative, and then making sure that you're not forgetting any information that you were told beforehand. So you're really juggling like a bunch of stuff. And so they're testing how well can you not necessarily multitask, but keep track of what's important versus things that aren't as important. Next, how effectively can you communicate these ideas? Again, while juggling all of these things, it's important to be able to be calm and composed. As of course, like a lot of people are going to be stressed out during this, but just reminding yourself that you've done this a lot and that practicing so that you feel good about it will be key. And then lastly, how creative are you and how quickly can you think on the spot? Both of which kind of touch on points that we've made previously, and that you'll also get to see whenever me and Rohit go through and case each other and then post that and then post a feedback as well.
The fourth and final thing we wanted to talk to you about was how to get good at the casing process. We're assuming that if you've come this far in the video, this is something that you really care about and that you want to get good at. What we will say is that when you first start out at casing, you are going to suck. And this is true with me, this is true with Neel, true with many people that I've cased with before, and it's just kind of like the fact of casing. It's just like a sport where like the more you do it over and over again, you get better at it. And so what we recommend is like when you first start out, actually do case with someone else. So find a casing buddy, maybe one of your friends or maybe someone in the comment section below that's equally as interested in casing as you are. And then just run a few cases with them to understand what the mechanics of the casing process is like, just so that you get comfortable with the whole format and you feel confident with at least the format before you go on to the more specifics of how to get better. And so what we recommend is, once you are familiar with those mechanics, go out and reach out to people within your own school that have gotten offers at consulting places or maybe have gone through the consulting process before and have been successful at it, and case with them and see what feedback they have, and then just keep running reps again and trying to improve based on their feedback with both your original friend or friends and with other people in your school. And once you've gotten comfortable with the more advanced mechanics of casing, once you feel like you're maybe at 60-70%, then start reaching out to alumni maybe from your school that have gotten offers or are actually working at consulting firms, and that way you'll get even better feedback from people that are actually on the job and have to do this every day. And once you're finally comfortable with all that, reach out to maybe people at higher positions in the firms, maybe like consultants or managers. Neel could probably talk a little bit more about that part.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that the progression that Rohit laid out of especially reaching out to consultants who work at these firms that you're applying to case with them and get practice with them is really important. From being on the other side of it, it's really impressive when a candidate, even before interviews roll around, is really good at casing, because that means that, assuming that the resume is right and they're a good fit for the firm and whatnot, based on the interactions we might have had, that person is a really good investment from an interview perspective, especially if you're at a non-target school like Rohit and I were at, because non-target schools in general have a limited number of spots that they have for interviews, and so they want to make sure that they're giving it to people who they know will be really successful. And so casing with consultants and associate consultants at whichever firm you're trying to apply to before the interviews, and then being really good at it, and even if you're not, it's okay. It's just the fact that you're putting in work and that they can trust you to get better is really important.
And the final thing is, if you feel like you've run a few reps and you want to get some feedback, feel free to reach out to me or Neel. We'll put our contact info in the description below or link it somewhere. Just reach out to us and we'll case 10 people for free.
And maybe even put it on YouTube if you're comfortable with it, just as material for other people to see. I think this is the last video that we'll make without us actually casing each other. In the next couple of videos, we'll actually case each other and show you all the feedback that we provide for that. So, until next time, see y'all later.
See you.